Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast is number 1428. The topic is nutrition and the title is How Undereating Shows Itself. So, let's say you're a person and you started, hopefully you're a person. Well, actually, if you're not a person and you're still listening to this, that's impressive. Congratulations. But if you're a person and you started a new training program and a new diet, let's say that you decided to go with a variation or a version of fasting. And how you're kind of structuring this is you eat very little for breakfast if you eat breakfast. And you try not to eat during the day. Maybe you'll eat a small amount if you missed breakfast, but if you got a good breakfast in, like maybe you don't eat anything during the day, but then you kind of eat controlled foods at night. So maybe you're tracking your total calories. Maybe you're tracking your total protein. Maybe you're not. So the idea is you eat a little bit during the day, you eat more at night, but you try to control what you eat at night. Overall, let's say that you're eating less than your body weight times 8. Now, that's a weird number, but let's go with this example. So let's say you weigh 200 pounds. And let's say that you're eating then less than 1,600 calories. Maybe you're eating 100, maybe you weigh 175. And you're eating 1,400 calories or less. So you're eating roughly your body weight times 8. Maybe you're eating body weight times 9. Maybe you're eating a little bit less. Somewhere around there in total calories for you to take a guess. And let's say that you're also eating, on average, less than 80 grams of protein a day. Some days it's 40, some days it's 50. Every now and then, maybe you take a protein shake after a workout and you get 100 grams or 120 grams in a day. But it's kind of high and lows. And if you had to kind of average it out, you think, I'm probably eating around 80 grams of protein. So around body weight times 8 in calories, around 80 grams or less of protein a day. Now, you're consistent with that. It's inconsistently consistent. It's an average. There are days where you're high, days where you're low, in calories and protein, but that's pretty much what you're shooting for, and that's around where you are. Let's say you're consistent in your training efforts, and you're like, yeah, my food's a little bit wishy-washy. I'm trying my best. I think I have a pretty good structure here, but I never miss my training. So you're lifting weights when you should. You're doing your cardio when you should. The scale is going down. You're excited. You're happy. Everything is working perfectly. Right? Well, unfortunately, no. So, and that's why we're making the podcast. But the weight that you're seeing coming off, the initial weight loss is actually water retention. Now, that's going to sound kind of weird, but when we eat food, our body holds on to water. So our body's largely made up of water. We drink water throughout the day. Water helps pretty much every process within the body happen in some way or another. Digestion requires a lot of fluid, a lot of water. And when we eat foods that have some degree of sodium, some degree of carbohydrates, now there's differing amounts that have different effects, but carbohydrates and sodium and water kind of get stored in the muscles. So if you have high amounts of all three of those, you have a high amount of water in your muscles. Now, if you lessen one of those three, so let's say you still drink a lot of water, you still have some sodium in your foods, but you don't eat any carbohydrates, well, your body's not going to be able to store water in the muscles. This is why people who do low carb or no carb diets or keto diets, why they'll see, or even fasting, they'll see an initial weight loss within the first couple days, maybe the first week or so. What's happening is the water that would normally be retained within your muscles, based on however you were eating before, that water is now dumped out of the muscles because you're not eating enough carbohydrates, or at all, to actually hold that water within the muscles. So the initial loss you see on the scale within the first week or two, usually it's within the first week, is pretty much 100% just related to water weight loss. So we have a podcast number 926. If you want to learn about, it's a nutrition podcast titled Controlling Water Retention. So that's a good one to listen to. There's podcast 498, which is an old one, nutrition podcast titled Fat Loss versus Water Weight Loss. That's a good one to listen to. We have one that's a little bit more recent, podcast 981. It's a nutrition podcast titled Water Cut, Lose 10 Pounds in 24 Hours. So I've helped clients lose more than 10 pounds for sure in 24 hours, and it's all related to just water retention manipulation. So the initial result you're seeing when you undereat, the initial result you see of weighing less, is pretty much almost exclusively only related to water weight loss. The remaining weight loss that starts to happen is a mixture of some body fat, yes, and some muscle tissue. Now, when you add resistance training to undereating, you actually start losing larger and larger amounts of muscle faster. You lose muscle faster if you lift weights and over-restrict your food. The reason why is lifting weights damages muscle tissue. It breaks it apart. Well, if you don't have proper nutrition to then repair and replace that damaged tissue just gets kind of like taken off and discarded. So lifting weights in an underfed state actually loses muscle tissue, causes it to come off faster. I've actually done this for people who played college sports, but then after college they didn't like the way their body looked, because it was performance-based in college, but now they have to kind of look that way for the rest of their life. So maybe they want to take some muscle off their legs. And maybe that, I've done that with female softball players, female volleyball players. I've done it with male baseball pitchers. So they want to take some muscle off their legs. Well, we actually lift weights in a fasted state at part of the day. So I actually chunk off part of their day, have them lift weights, and then don't eat for 6 to 8 hours after that. And it actually reduces muscle tissue. It actually breaks muscle tissue down, doesn't replace it, and they actually will lose muscle tissue in the targeted areas that we train in a fasted state and then don't give nutritional recovery to. So what happens when you're not eating enough calories, when you're undereating calories and protein, and then you go and lift weights, you're actually losing increasingly more muscle mass, and that's going to make you weigh less and less and less. Now, if your goal is fat loss, you're not going to notice that right away. You're going to see that water weight retention loss happen. You're going to be like, oh, this is awesome. The scale goes down a couple pounds. Then in the first week or 2 or 3 or 4, you see it continue to go down. It continues to go down. It continues to go down. Maybe not as fast as it did the first week, but it's still going down. So you're like, well, this is awesome. I'm losing more and more weight, which we assume is body fat, but that's, we all know what that happens when you assume. Yeah, you're an ass. Unfortunately, you don't know it yet. So what's happening is the initial weight loss is water weight loss. Then the remaining weight loss becomes increasingly more muscle tissue loss than body fat loss. And unfortunately, fat loss becomes increasingly harder because as you're in an underfed state, the body will place greater and greater priority on retaining body fat. So it actually tries to prevent you from burning off more body fat. Why? Well, because body fat is saved energy, and it's to run our organs. So if we are in an unfed state, our body still has to run all of our organs, right? It still has to function and move and keep you alive. Well, what does it use to do that? It uses stored energy. If you're not eating energy, it has to use what's stored. Well, if you continue to not eat and it has to continue to use what's stored, continue to use what's stored, continue to use what's stored, it's going to start to say, well, crap, how do we use less and less and less? How can I prevent losing more of the protection that I have that keeps me alive? Our body is designed to fight against fat loss if the fat loss is happening from being underfed. It is literally designed to do that so we don't kill ourselves. Okay? What you'll also start to see is movement restrictions, mobility issues. You'll feel super kind of like tight in your muscles. Your muscles will be super sore and you don't feel like you're recovering between your workouts. And it's going to get increasingly more obvious as you go on. You're going to get some joint pain. You're also just kind of lose motivation, lose energy. All of a sudden, you're not as fired up to do things as you once were. You might have intense cravings, Or maybe you're so damn busy you don't notice them. And it turns into more of like a loss of an appetite for you. And when somebody says you need to eat more, you're like, I'm not even really hungry. The problem at that state is you're so jacked up you don't even recognize it. Your body is just shut off. It says, okay, none of this is good. I'm just going to down-regulate every damn thing that is non-essential. And I'm going to try to survive off just the calories this person is feeding me. And sometimes it can do that. It can reduce the speed of growing your hair, your skin, your nails, a bunch of other things that our body does that it can determine is not priority. So it'll give it less and less and less calories. This is why people who don't eat, like if they undereat and they overexercise, their skin will start to get scaly. Their hair will start to thin out. They notice they don't have to clip their fingernails as often as they once did. You'll notice you're not going to the bathroom very often. Whatever your normal frequency was is starting to get like greater and greater in between. So initially, undereating does create results. It actually creates pretty fast results because you lose a lot of water weight in the first week. But it does eventually plateau. You eventually feel like crap. You'll have the movement restrictions, sore muscles, joint pain, loss of energy. Maybe you'll have cravings, maybe you won't. But you're just going to feel lethargic and crappy. The weight's not going to change anymore. Just feel blah. And then you'll think, crap, this isn't good. I don't look the way that I want. I haven't gotten super lean. I've just kept the same shape I had. I'm just lighter, but I don't really look any better. So eventually you have to start eating more to account for the energy loss, or to start to account for just feeling like crap all the time. You just start to eat more because you're sitting on your butt not doing as much. But you'll notice that when you eat more, you gain more fat at a faster rate than you did before. You're going to say, I used to eat this way. Why am I getting fat now? You're going to notice that you're gaining body fat faster than you did before. You'll then feel trapped into having to undereat again to try to not gain the fat that you're gaining now. But again, you're going to feel miserable. You're going to feel like crap. So you're going to go back to eating more again. But then you're going to gain more body fat even faster then. And it's just this horrible cycle. So that is how undereating shows itself. You'll see initial weight loss. Eventually that kind of plateaus. As that plateaus, you start to feel like crap. Movement restrictions, sore muscles, joint pain, loss of motivation, loss of energy. You might weigh less on a scale, but you don't look much different in the mirror. Everything kind of flatlines and plateaus. You're frustrated, you're miserable, and then you go back to eating, but you gain more fat than you ever did before. Sounds horrible. Why do people do it? Because it's easier. Initially, it is easier to just avoid food. Okay, well, if I got fat from overeating, I just won't eat. I'll get super busy. I'm already busy anyhow in the morning. I just won't eat breakfast. Rather than me trying to figure out how to manage a fast, efficient, and quick breakfast, I just skip it. Rather than me trying to plan out lunch, I'll just eat whatever random crap becomes, convenient in the middle of the day. And then I will eat at night because maybe I'll prepare some food for my family, or, now I'm at home sitting on my butt from work. I have some time. So, I'll heat something up. I'll cook something simple and I'll eat my food at night. It's easy. It's a lazy way to lose weight. And you get rewarded for it initially. Oh, that's even worse. You lose water weight. It looks great. Lose a bunch of weight on the scale. You lose a little bit more the next week, a little bit more, but then it gets like slower. So maybe the first week you lose 8 pounds, then it's 4, then it's 2, then it's 1, none, gain a pound, none, gain a pound, none. It plateaus. So it's a lazy way to lose weight. Short term, easy. Long term, frustrating. So what can we do? Well, let's first understand that beyond what I've just explained here why this is an awful thing. So that way we're really motivated to not do it. So podcasting 1426, just two ago, is a podcast titled Progressive Pivoting. So it'll talk a little bit more about that there. Podcast 1411 is a Q&A podcast, which is titled Fasting for Fat Loss. Explains this as well. Podcast 1344 is a nutrition podcast titled Balancing the Books, and explains that as well. So, what can we do? How in the world can I make sense of this and start to do it in a better way? You know, I tried the lazy way. It didn't work, just like you said. Or I'm afraid to try that because it sounds horrible. Podcast 1232 is a nutrition podcast titled Start Here. Literally, start there. Go through and do what the podcast tells you to do. That's it. Now, if you want some help with applying it, if you want some encouragement, some accountability, some just clarification on some things, reach out. My email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. I'll be happy to help you set it up and help you kind of get on your way and get started. But I hope that you avoid undereating. I know it is easy, but it is not long-term successful. You will be unhappy. Don't trade off unhappiness later for something that's easy now. Don't be lazy right now. Lazy weight loss does not work. Otherwise, everyone would be losing weight, because who can't do what's lazy, right? Everybody would be doing the laziest thing they could do. And if it worked, everybody would be in shape. Everyone is lazy initially and kind of innately. You know, we don't all want to do super hard things that make us have to change all of our habits, right? So if being lazy worked, everyone would be in shape. I would be in shape more. You know, hell, I'll take a lazy approach if I didn't have to do a harder approach, of course. But a lazy approach doesn't work. And one way to know that is everyone else is out of shape as well. So it's challenging to lose weight. It is. It's simple in concept, but it is challenging to change your habits, change old ways of thinking, finding new ways to eat. There are some challenges to that for sure. So I hope that you give this a try, okay? So listen to podcast 1232. Give that a try. If you need help, just reach out or email us brutalirongym@gmail.com. Well, I appreciate you listening very, very much. If you liked this podcast and you think it could help other people, share it on social media. Sharing it on social media reaches the most amount of people. That way we can help the most amount of people. You can also just share in a conversation with a friend, and that's great as well. Just let them know about the podcast. Tell them to check us out. You know, maybe send them a link, something like that. But that way we can just help more people. Thank you to the patrons of the podcast, people who financially support the podcast, which you can do so on our website. The podcast is actually well over $1,000 a year for hosting costs. I give an hour to it every single day, and I'd love to keep it for free. And it's only thanks to the donations that it makes any sense to keep for free, so thank you very, very much. If you want to donate, you can do so at our website, which is www.brutalirongym.com. We have an option for a one-time donation, monthly donation, yearly donation. Anything you can give is greatly appreciated. Also, if you like the information we share in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. If you have any questions, feedback, suggestions, anything you want to know, let us know at our email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.